Hello guys, welcome back. Please subscribe to the channel if you want more of this recap.
The story begins with a lonely man sitting in front of his computer, his mind and body exhausted from endless hours of work, drawing a character from a manhwa. With each stroke of the pencil, his body weakens, until finally, he falls out of his chair, exclaiming that there are still millions of details to add and that he can't afford to lose the battle against the endless overtime. His body and soul give in to fatigue and we see him fall to the ground, dying from exhaustion. We move to a different scene, where a young man presents himself to us. My name is Eula. He says, I worked too many overtime hours and I died from overwork, but I'm alive again, and I've crossed over to a hunter named Chen Fei. He tells us that Chen Fei's old father died after being attacked by a fierce animal while hunting in the mountain. Chen Fei, who lived with his father, was so distressed that he went with him, and it was then that he obtained his body. Eula states that there is nothing more tragic in life than dying with your money still unspent. The rest of Chen Fei's production were just bacon skewers, and it's a shame that the money saved by his wife crying over the money that was saved, which was more than 16,000 yuan. Chen Fei wonders how he can complain when the opportunity to live again is something that no amount of money can buy, and that he must then think about how to live better. And we see that the protagonist hears a sound, turning in surprise, showing us that the salted fish ascension system has been activated. He exclaims, what the hell? Wait, did I hear right? System, can it be? Is this a scenario for me? After being reborn, I opened the system and dominated the world, with a harem of 7,000 or 8,000 beauties. With a smile on his face, the protagonist rejoices upon learning that the hedgehog man he was are loyal to their form, and with each twist of the plot, he is about to reach the top of the game. He exclaims, saying no need for trivialities. I accept with enthusiasm. However, his joy is interrupted by a system lockout sign, indicating that it has been temporarily disabled due to detecting that the host is overworking and not meeting the system activation requirements. The protagonist gets angry and exclaims, don't turn it off so lightly. Why is it off? What do you mean I don't meet the criteria? Explain it to me. The system tells him, the host is invited to live his salty life and prove his salty power. This system will open in the host's next life. Angrily, the protagonist says, what salty life? What the hell is salty power? What sense does it make to only open it in the next life? What uses a shit system like you? Garbage. The system, angry at hearing the protagonist's insults, throws a lightning bolt from the sky, warning the protagonist that it is prohibited to attack the system with malicious language. The protagonist, in pain, says okay. The system tells him if he has too many questions, please read the user manual. The protagonist gives a like to the system while saying that it still has a good character. The protagonist asks the system if he does nothing in this life, will he be invincible in the next one? Not to mention what is the criterion for a salty fish, but even more important, if he will still be himself in the next life. The system tells him that his soul has been archived, and in reincarnation this system can retain all his memories no matter what happens. His soul is already in a state of indestructibility, and any attack that does not harm his soul will add to the rebound and kill the enemy in seconds. The protagonist says I understand, but that he would still need at least 40 or 50 years to live the next life. He thinks that if it's so difficult to pass through this, then there's only one way to pass through this life. So he asks the system if he takes the initiative to stop breathing, maybe it can count as the life of a salty fish, and maybe he can turn on the system. The system responds by telling him, a true salty fish will not stop breathing voluntarily. Normal people have the instinct to seek good fortune and avoid death, and if an active act results in death, it is considered a violation and does not qualify for system activation. He thinks and says, the violations are all cleared up. I can't find death, but I can make death come to me. System, one last question, is my true identity now Eula or Chen Fei? The system tells him, identity is based on the physical body, and the host's true identity is currently Chen Fei. The protagonist happily agrees and says he will try to lead a good salty life for the rest of his life. But the system denies this, telling him that a true fish would not work much. The protagonist, disappointed, asks if the system is purposely bothering him. The system does not respond, and the protagonist says, well, I will live my life without wishing for anything. The system wishes him the best on his salty journey and tells him not to hesitate to ask any other questions in the future and says see you soon. The protagonist gives a thumbs up and says good, and leaves the system at the end. Now that the system is no longer there, the protagonist says to himself a system is a system no matter how powerful it is, it still lacks common sense. The one who should be salty is Chen Fei. What about me, Eula? The situation has been cleared up, and in order to enter the next life as soon as possible, my goal is to use external forces efficiently and according to the rules too. Die. Hours later, in another place in the demonic sect, the sect of the enchanted soul, voices are heard saying God bless the saint who shines in our sect for the next 1,000 generations, laughing. The saint says she agrees, and we also see the perspective of someone observing the act from afar. This woman says this pearl that confuses the gods is a treasure of the demonic Tao of very high grade left by the ancient cultivators. With it the sect of the enchanted soul will surely become a great demonic sect. Introducing this woman as the saint of the enchanted soul called Shui Kingbei. The group of people who are in that place cheer for the saint, saying congratulations, or God bless the saint. As the group of people applaud the saint is surprised to see someone attacking her and covering the attack. And we see that the saint no longer has the pearl, but we see a girl who is on top and is the one who has stolen the pearl. The saint orders the crowd to catch her and not let her escape. Changing the scene a few hours later, we see our protagonist lying in a cabin, thinking it's not easy to find death without any suspicion. I can't think of anything. While we see how hungry he is, his stomach growling. He says that thinking is also physically demanding and dying of hunger is a violation, and he wonders where he can find food in the middle of the forest and if that means going hunting. But while he's thinking, an idea comes to mind and he says the deep forest. I'm a computer worker who spends all day sitting at a computer table. How can I know how to hunt? It's difficult to live in this environment even if I want to. He also says that there are dangers in hunting and the possibility of being bitten by prey. He calculates that in less than 3 or 5 days he can follow the steps of Chen Fei's father. With a malicious smile on his face, the protagonist began to run, knowing he could no longer wait. Suddenly, he stopped in front of a furious wild boar that was preparing to charge him. With bravery, the protagonist shouted, "Come on. My life depends on you. I will be reborn as a king immediately." As the wild boar quickly approached to attack him, the protagonist was surprised to see that his hand had moved on its own. With superhuman skill and strength, he lifted the wild boar and struck it against the ground. Perhaps it was a conditioned reflex of his Chen Fa hunter condition, leaving the wild boar dazed and the protagonist feeling depressed. Chen Fa, how can you be so powerful as a hunter to leave me inheriting your abilities and knowledge? The protagonist wondered. The plan to find death in the deep forest was in vain. I have to stay here for 40 or 50 years. I wish a rock would fall from the sky and kill me, the protagonist wished, surprised to see a meteorite had fallen on his house. Running inside, he was surprised to see that the rock had not hit him directly in its place. What the hell? What bad luck? Where will I live in the future? The protagonist wondered. However, his surprise turned into a feeling of understanding when he saw a girl who had fallen in his house, screaming. Approaching her and staring at her fixedly, the protagonist understood. Now, I finally understand. Without mountains there is no paradise. While he continued to fall from the sky, the protagonist immersed himself in his thoughts and reflections. Continuing, the protagonist noticed that the girl who had fallen from the sky also carried a long sword, one of the legendary swords of the immortal cultivators. A beautiful immortal. But I don't know if she's alive or dead, the protagonist thought, approaching her with caution. Not even a heartbeat. It seems she's not alive, the protagonist reflected, trying to wake her with gentle urgency. Hey, girl, you're still young. It's a shame, the protagonist said. Getting up, the protagonist frightened to see her react. Girl, don't misunderstand me. I just wanted to make sure you were alive, the protagonist said, staring at her, recoiling due to the scare. It hurts, the girl said, leaving the protagonist puzzled by what she had said. Moments later, I can't stay in the house anymore. Now I'll let you stay for a while to heal your wounds. I'll go find you some herbs, the protagonist thought. I haven't lived here long, the protagonist thinks. It's not necessary, the girl says. Girl, what are you doing? The protagonist said, surprised to see that the girl had taken out 2 bottles of medicine. I have medicine here, but I am weak. I could bother the strong man to get me it, she said, and we see that the girl is naked. The protagonist, blushing, asks her if she is sure a cultivator is not a person who worries about small details. She says it's not carelessness, it's boldness. The protagonist thought. Thank you, she said as she saw that the protagonist was going to help her. The protagonist is surprised to see that it is a very serious wound. He rubs the medicine on the girl's wound and watches as it disappears instantly. This medicine is too effective. Is it an immortal cultivation treasure? The protagonist thinks. Girl, these wounds are. He says a long story, she replies. My name is Zhao Zuli. The girl introduces herself, a cultivator from the sword sect, and thanks the protagonist for his help. I am Yula, a hunter. Our protagonist introduces himself. Miss Zhao, why did you fall from the sky? He asks. A few days ago, I found out that the Enchanted Soul Sect, a demonic entity, was planning a big scheme to avoid loss of lives. I valiantly defended myself from the demons, but was outnumbered and chased by them, eventually falling here and causing damage to your home. But don't worry, I will compensate you when we return to the sect, she says. The protagonist wonders, one person against a sect. Are you made of iron? Right. But you're still alive, that's impressive. Miss Cao, what are your plans now? The demonic sect will not rest when their schemes are thwarted and their treasures taken. I will return to the sword sect immediately to inform them of this. The girl spits blood, and the protagonist is worried about her, telling her, Miss Cao, you are so injured that I fear it is difficult to face any other danger on the road. Well, can I ask you to accompany me back to the sword sect? I will greatly appreciate it, says the girl. Surprised, the protagonist says forget it. It's too dangerous, she says. The protagonist asks, Miss Zhao, how far is the sword sect? She responds, it would take at least half a month to get there. So, there must be assassins from the demonic sect chasing you on the way, right? Asks the protagonist. Yes, you can say the situation is extremely dangerous. Most likely I have 90% chance of dying. She responds, understood, replies the protagonist, and asks the system, isn't it against the rules if I'm escorting this girl and get killed by an assassin on the way? The system responds, although a salted fish doesn't actively exercise chivalry, it's not a violation to die in a sudden accident while helping others. I'm being brusque by asking a simple mortal to accompany me. I won't force you if you don't agree, she shouts. You haven't been brusque, I promise, he says. What? You promise? She says. Yes, he responds. The protagonist says, Miss Xiao, you're a woman who has entered the tiger's den for the sake of the world. I, Eula, am immortal, but I know what is just. I'll accompany you in your fight against demons. Together we'll advance and retreat. This man is lying, but he doesn't feel malicious. It's better to forget it and return to the sword sect first, she thinks. She asks him if he's sure, to which he says, of course, and there's no great gratitude. I'm sure I've been blessed with a great life. Then, I'll be grateful. The demons of the demonic sect will come for us at some point. Let's leave as soon as possible, she says. All right, let me have a moment to prepare, says the protagonist. Old Chen, I'll be borrowing your son's body for a while, and I'll certainly die as soon as possible so you can rest in peace, the protagonist thinks. I didn't die in this deep forest, but now I'll meet some demonic assassins on the way, so I'll die easily. Miss Xiao, let's go. All right, she responds. Elsewhere, what a bunch of losers. Damn you, Zhao Zuli, for ruining my sect's 50-year plan, soul bewitched. I'll never forgive you, says the saint of the soul bewitched sect. Salutations to the saint, exclaims Zhao Kuani. Zhao Kuani, you're a master of this sect. I order you to chase and kill Zhao Zuli, and bring back the demonic magic treasure, the Pearl of Confusion, says the saint. The saint can be sure that this subordinate will fulfill, says Zhao Kuani, surprised when he sees that he is given an artifact. A lion fights a rabbit with all its strength. Zhao Zuli is a powerful fighter, so we must not take her lightly. Just to be safe, take this. With a determined gesture, Zhao Kuani grabbed the blanket and, surprised, realized that it was really for him. I'll lend it to you for a while, said the saint. If you can kill Zhao Zuli, you will be rewarded. Thank you, saint, exclaimed Zhao Kuani. Not only was she severely injured, but she was hit by a location incense, and she can't escape to another place, the saint says to herself. Changing scenes, we see the protagonist lying asleep next to a campfire. Zhao approached the protagonist and touched his chest, waking him up. What's going on? The protagonist asked, surprised. And we see that she was blushing, wanting to chit-chat. The protagonist wondered, what kind of 18-plus plot is this developing so fast? No, this is too exciting. It can't be shown to readers. Here we go. The protagonist is confused when he hears Zhao Zuli, who tells him to be careful, as the enchanted soul sect is approaching, to which Chen is scared and surprised. He screams asking if it's serious, where they are and if there's many people, to which Zuli tells him to lower his voice. Zuli tells Chen that the man was very careful and didn't approach. Instead he spread the unpleasant spell of the sect, a type of fog that awakens the 7 emotions and 6 desires, and tells him that if he looks closely he will see a slight pink mist nearby. Chen looks around and sees that it's true. That's why there were so many medical consultations in the health room. VI, referring to a video in a hospital where there is a kissing scene and other things. Just say it. I'm someone who has seen countless movies and I almost lost myself, he says. But the girl interrupts him, telling him that the mist of desires only works on women. Suddenly we see Zuli fall to the floor, and Chen, worried, asks if she's okay, to which she responds that nothing is wrong. She can still hold on. Chen helps her up and asks what they should do now. She says there are only 2 ways to break the situation at that moment. 1. She still has a hidden card, but the hidden card is too much to kill. If the enemy uses it, he will die, but the one who uses it will also die. Chen, happy, thinks it's not a problem and agrees to use it. But the girl interrupts, adding that she believes he won't agree and she won't let her benefactor die innocently. Chen says again that no, he still agrees. But Zuli doesn't listen and continues to explain the second option, which consists of Chen having to find out where the enemy is, and then she will take out her sword and kill him. Chen, confused, asks if in reality he has to find him. Zhao Zuli says that person seems to have used some kind of device to conceal his movements. Says that her divine sense is now much weaker than before and she can't find him. But as Chen grew up in the forest since he was a child, he could be able to find his trace in the dense woods. Zuli tells him she knows it's difficult, but it's also the only way to survive. Chen says he will definitely find him, thinking happily that his chance to die has finally come, and we see Zhao Kuani, who is hiding. He tells us that the divine evasion cloak given by the saint is truly remarkable. Not only is it able to avoid the search of a cultivator's divine sense, but it can also protect others from their 5 senses. Kuani thinks that even if they catch him, they won't be able to feel what he is because they won't be able to find him because he is nothing. He mentions that he's going to kill Zhao Zuli, but then says that it will be a shame to kill her because if he takes her yin to compensate his yang, not only will he enjoy a great pleasure but also he would gain the Maya and his cultivation would skyrocket. Besides, Zuli has the magical Pearl of Confusion that he stole from his enchanted soul sect, and if he gets it he could have a chance to claim the title of Patriarch. While Kuani thinks, suddenly Chen appears, to which Kuani wonders what a mortal like Chen is doing there. Kuani thinks that Chen has already found his position. But that's not the case, to which he mocks Chen, saying he's ridiculous. How can you find me? By the movement of the air. I've even reversed the flow of air from the south so you'll only think I'm in the south but I'm actually in the north, he says laughing and adding that he can't imagine it. but he's surprised to see that Chen's arrow comes straight at him, shouting damnation. Then we see how the arrow heads towards Kwani's eye, but he uses his power to deflect the arrow. He and Chen are surprised. Chen, because his plan to die has failed, and Kwani, because his position has been exposed. Chen thinks angrily, why did I hit him with an arrow? We see how a moment ago Chen says the air is blowing from the south, the enemy is in the south, so I'm sure I'll fail if I shoot to the north. He also adds, the arrow was shot beyond Zhao Zuli's protection, and that position was the open space that was not covered by branches or leaves. He will wait a minute when he goes to pick up the arrow, and he will appear, and that way he will kill me without problems. Chen cries because his plan was very well thought out and blames Kwani for being hidden right there. Chen says there will be no other opportunity, so now that the enemy has been found, Zhao Zuli will not let him escape, and he cannot believe that he has escaped in front of him. Chen realizes that Zhao has not moved, and he asks him why he did not move, to which she replies that she has not yet recovered from her internal injuries and that she has not drawn her sword either. She wanted to wait until she found the enemy first, but she did not expect Chen to find him so quickly. Zhao grabs Chen's hand. Chen is surprised by this action from her. She tells him to do it again and that this time she will not miss the opportunity to finish him off. Chen tells her he will try, but she has to wait. Chen says, this time I won't give you again. And Zhao Kwani in turn also says that he will not give him again, adding also, I bet that mortal did not think that I had returned to my old position, to see how you will give me this time. And we see Chen where he has to shoot this time not to give him. He thinks that Gaia would not be so stupid as to turn around and come back to the same place, and that this time he will definitely fail, and we see how he gives the arrow in the head of Kwani, coming out the arrow bouncing and looking at both again angry. Angry Chen says he escaped in front of his eyes again. Chen turns and sees Zuli telling her that if she did not have time again. The girl covers her face with shame and tells Chen that he is too fast, now taking out her sword saying she is ready to go and that this time there will be no more mistakes and that she will kill him, while we see as she coughs some blood. Chen asks her if she is okay, but she does not answer. We see that Chen tells himself, big brothers, I will do it again, but don't let him shoot you again. While Zhao Kwani thinks that Zhao Zuli's medicine is about to take effect, saying that this is the last chance and that regardless of whether he is alive or dead he will fight against him. Chen wonders where to shoot, and Kwani wonders where Chen will shoot. Chen thinks it's not safe to shoot anywhere, and Kwani in turn thinks it's not safe to hide anywhere. I must find a place where he would never hide, thinks Chen. I must find a place where he would never shoot, thinks Kwani. I've got it. This is the place they both think, and we see the arrow that the protagonist launched is about to fall on the face of the enemy, while Kwani thinks, at that moment the arrow was 2 centimeters from me and it was too late to dodge it. The bastard must have seen me and pretended not to. Using all these tricks has clearly been to play with me. Contemptible. Shameless. What a shame. Chen is surprised and tells Kwani, what's wrong with you? Why did you hit my arrow? Wait. It also has a system that forces you to find death. That's why you also want to hit my arrow. Zhao Zuli attacks Kwani, calling him a demonic devil and telling him to suffer death. The attack hits Kwani's body full on, causing a strong explosion. The protagonist is surprised, and as he sees Kwani fall, Chen runs towards him saying, Brother, I have a question for you. Why do you keep hitting my arrows? Are you deliberately looking for death? Kwani, upon hearing this, starts to lose more blood. Chen, surprised to see the huge amount of blood, says, you're spitting blood through the bandages, brother. You're bleeding from the 7 orifices. What happened to you, brother? Don't die. Say something. I also want to ask you how to find death. Chen realizes that Zhao Zuli is standing in front of him and says, Miss Zhao, are you okay? Is it not too soon to put away the weapons? Zhao tells him that she's fine and that the soul enchanted sect is only causing her trouble. She tells him that the next step will probably be to prepare the masters to ambush him and her on the way. Chen tells her that there are millions of roads and they can all circumvent them to return to the sword sect, and adds that how will they know which path they will take him and her. She tells him that there is actually one more thing that she has not told him. With her injury, if she does not reach the sword sect in half a month, she will definitely die. But that there are 3 essential routes to return, and says that the soul enchanted sect also knows that, so it is impossible not to avoid them. She knows that the road ahead is difficult and will not blame him if he regrets it now and if he wants to leave. Chen tells her, what are you talking about? Since I said I would send you back to the sword sect, I will definitely accompany you to the end. How can I leave halfway? But Chen tells himself that he will not leave until he has a violent death. Thank you very much, says Zhao Zuli, embracing Chen Fei, causing his face to be in the middle of her breasts. Chen is surprised by this action and says he can't breathe, quickly pulling his head out from between Zuli's breasts, telling her that it's inappropriate, very inappropriate. Zuli apologizes, saying that the pink mist is still affecting her, and asks Chen if she can go for a moment, as she needs to eliminate the power of the medicine from her body, and it's not appropriate for others to be present. Chen agrees and says he'll go very far, telling her not to worry as he won't look or listen. Changing the scene, we see in another place in the sect of the haunted soul, the saint thinking, as expected from an elder from the sect of the sword, it's a shame that the magical treasure, the god escape cloth, was lost in vain. While looking at a map and adding, Zhao Zuli, those old men are waiting for you, can you still win easily?